Assalamu alaikum. Please be seated. Please be seated. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Welcome to the 19th National Peace Symposium, for the first time being held in the glorious setting of the Mubarak Mosque in Islamabad, Tilford. We are not expecting a fire alarm today, but should a fire alarm go off, please leave the premises through the fire doors on the side of the hall, and the assembly point is outside in the car park and at the front on the grass. A humble request to everyone to kindly switch off your mobile phones as well. We will now start the formal program, and we'll start with the recitation of the Holy Quran, and I would like to invite Mr. Khan Farid Ahmed to give the recitation, followed by the translation in English by Masroor Ahmad Ode.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Man kana yuridu thawaba ad-dunya fa'inda Allahi thawabu ad-dunya wal akhirah. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُونُوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. جزاك الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. The verses recited before you today have been taken from chapter 4, verses 135 to 136 of the Holy Quran. The English translation is as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. Whoso desires the reward of this world, then let him remember that with Allah is the reward of this world and of the next. And Allah is all-hearing, all-seeing. O ye who believe, be strict in observing justice and be witnesses for Allah, even though it be against yourselves or against parents and kindred. Whether he be rich or poor, Allah is more regardful of them both than you are. Therefore, follow not low desires, so that you may be able to act equitably. And if you conceal the truth or evade it, then remember that Allah is well aware of what you do. Jazakallah.
Thank you very much. We now start our speeches, and I would like to invite our National President, Mr. Rafiq Hayat, to give the welcome address. Mr. Rafiq Hayat.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Beloved Hazur, Your Holiness, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Members of Parliament, peers, distinguished faith leaders, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace be upon you all. It's a great honor and a sincere pleasure to warmly welcome you all to the 19th Peace Symposium of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom. We are deeply privileged by the presence of so many distinguished guests from across government, diplomatic corps, academia, faith communities, the charity sector, and the wider community, including our international guests. Your attendance this evening reflects our shared belief that dialogue, mutual respect, and understanding remain essential if we are to build a more peaceful and just society. The theme of this year's symposium is the absolute global justice, the foundation of true peace. And indeed, it could not be more timely. We gather this evening at an exceptionally fragile and dangerous moment in world affairs. Across the globe, conflict continues to intensify from Palestine and the wider Middle East to Ukraine and beyond. Innocent civilians continue to suffer immensely, and communities remain divided, and tension between nations continue to rise. Increasingly, the language of diplomacy is being replaced by language of power, creating a growing fear that regional conflicts could escalate into a much wider and more devastating global crisis. For more than 2 decades, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, has consistently warned world leaders about the dangers of injustice, extremism, and the abandonment of fairness and equity in international affairs. At a time, many political leaders and commentators respectfully acknowledged his concerns, whilst perhaps believing such warnings to be overly pessimistic or distant possibilities. Today, however, many may reflect upon whether more could and should have been done earlier to prevent the deeply troubling and tragic events that we are now witnessing unfolding around the world. We're therefore profoundly honored that His Holiness is once again with us this evening to deliver the keynote address. His Holiness is recognized internationally as one of the leading Muslim voices advocating peace, justice, freedom of religion, and interfaith harmony. He has addressed audiences at the UK Parliament, the European Parliament, Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., the Canadian Parliament, the Dutch Parliament, and the Parliaments of New Zealand, amongst many. His Holiness has also written personally to world leaders, urging them to act with wisdom, justice, and humanity in order to prevent the world from descending further into conflict, hatred, and disorder. At a time when division, uncertainty, and fear continues to spread across many parts of the world, his message of peace, compassion, and justice is more relevant and more urgently needed than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, history teaches us, and His Holiness continues to remind us, that lasting peace can only be achieved cannot be achieved through power alone. True and enduring peace can only be established through justice, fairness, and mutual respect. If we wish to see a more peaceful world, then justice must prevail equally from all people and all nations. It is our sincere hope and prayer that tonight's gathering helps renew our collective commitment to these vital principles. So once again, I warmly welcome all of the distinguished guests and sincerely thank you for joining us this evening. May Allah guide humanity towards peace, justice, and reconciliation. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rafiq Hayat. And if anybody wishes to acknowledge by a round of applause, they may do so. Very kind of you. We have 600 guests from 15 countries. Sadly, we don't have time for everyone to speak, but we are delighted to welcome a few guest speakers. And I would like to first invite Mr. Greg Stafford, who is the local Member of Parliament for Farnham and Borden, where Islamabad and this Mubarak Mosque is based. Prior to his parliamentary career, Greg served as a senior director in the NHS. He's a very good friend of the community and secretary of the all-party parliamentary group for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, a great friend and supporter. I welcome him and invite him to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Fareed. Your Holiness, distinguished guests, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is a real pleasure to join you at the National Peace Symposium and to welcome so many guests from across the United Kingdom and indeed across the world to my constituency of Farnham and Borden. And I should say at the outset, especially if you've travelled a long way to get here, you have arrived at least at the most beautiful and the best part of Surrey and indeed of the United Kingdom. This year's symposium theme, Absolute Global Justice, the Foundation for True Peace, could hardly be more timely. At a moment when the world feels increasingly divided, unstable, and anxious, gatherings like this matter enormously. And what has always struck me is that peace here is not treated as an abstract idea or simply as a slogan. It is something lived through service, charity, and bringing people together, those practical ways that this community does that. And across Farnham and Borden, members of your community make a genuine contribution to local life, whether through charity fundraising, interfaith engagement, supporting vulnerable people, or events such as the Borden Beacon of Peace Walk. There is a consistent effort to build understanding between people of different backgrounds, faiths, and viewpoints. I wish to particularly acknowledge His Holiness, whose consistent message of peace, justice, and mutual respect has resonated far beyond this community and across the world. Your Holiness, it is a privilege to have you and the international headquarters of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community here in our constituency. Thank you once again for the invitation, for the welcome that you always extend, and for all that you do in the cause of peace. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Greg Stafford. Our next speaker is the Right Honourable Sir Edward Davey, who is the leader of the Liberal Democrats Party and the Member of Parliament for Kingston and Surbiton. He has previously served as Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change and is the Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. He's a long-standing friend of the community who's met His Holiness many times and will be well known to many of you. I now invite Sir Ed Davey to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum. It's a huge privilege to be invited to another Peace Symposium, and on behalf of the guests, can I thank the community for inviting us, but even more importantly, for holding a Peace Symposium. I know of no other community in our country who persistently and continually bangs the drum for peace and brings people together from all faiths and none, so we can have the dialogue that is so essential both in our own country and between countries to mark the cause of peace. And His Holiness, as a world leader, is the person who speaks out most on the need for peace and the need for bringing people together. And it's a huge privilege to be able to meet him and later to hear him, as we all will. Finally, I would echo the words of His Holiness about the need to tackle injustice and inequality and poverty around the world, the causes of conflict in so many areas. Let me end on a positive note, and it is tonight's discussions. And to end by giving thanks to His Holiness for the work he continues to do. And while he has warned of the dangers, he also points the way forward. So thank you to him, thank you to the Ahmadi community, thank you to all for coming and participating.
Thank you, Sir Ed Davey. Our last guest speaker is Seema Malhotra, who is a Member of Parliament for Feltham and Heston. Seema is currently serving the UK government in senior levels as Minister for Equalities at the Department for Education and as Minister in the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office. She is a very close friend of the community and a former Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Seema, and I invite her to say a few words.
Your Holiness, Mr. President, Members of Parliament, and distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak at this 19th National Peace Symposium, and along with my friend and colleague, Fleur Anderson, to bring good wishes from colleagues in the Labour Party from across the country. I thank the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community UK for bringing together leaders from across faiths, communities, and public life in pursuit of such an important cause, which stands at the heart of your values of love for all and hatred for none. Events like this are a vital reminder that peace cannot be taken for granted. It must be a priority for people and for nations, and be nurtured, protected, and pursued through dialogue, mutual respect, and justice. That is why I express my appreciation of the Ahmadiyya community's work and the leadership of Your Holiness in this regard that I have seen over the years, with your continued advocacy for peace, justice, and human dignity that has resonated with audiences around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Seema Malhotra. Before we go on to the next session, I'd just like to acknowledge the presence of other guests on the stage. And we have with us Mr. Ivan Baker, Member of Parliament, and his wife, Amanda Simard, who've travelled all the way from Canada to be with us today. We also have friends from the UK Parliament, Luke Taylor MP, Zoe Franklin MP, Fleur Anderson MP, and we're also joined by Neelam Devashar MBE, who is the Deputy Lord Lieutenant, His Majesty's representative for Surrey. We also have Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon, former Foreign Office Minister, and Honourable Pablo González Menendez, Senator from Spain. And lastly, we have our National President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Elders Association, Sahibzada Mirza Waqas Ahmed, and the Director for our community internationally for India, Nepal and Bhutan, Mr. Fateh Dari. We now move on to the next part of the programme, which is the presentation of the Peace Prize, and I invite Mr. Rafiq Hayat to introduce the winner of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Peace Prize.
Assalamu alaikum. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Prize for the Advancement of Peace is an international award that was launched in 2009. It is an award in recognition of an individual or an organization's contribution for the advancement of the cause of peace. There have been 17 winners up to 2025 from 14 countries. This year, we're delighted to welcome the winner of the 2025 Ahmadiyya Muslim Prize for the Advancement of Peace, Mr. Gregory Vonon, who has traveled all the way from Benin to be with us for this event. Gregory is a humanitarian who has revolutionized care for people with mental illness in West Africa. He's a former mechanic, and he founded St. Camille Association to rescue and treat mentally ill individuals who were often abandoned, chained up, or abused due to stigma. Over 30 years, Gregory and his team have helped thousands of people in his center for free care. He trains and employs former patients, with many of his caregivers are themselves recovered patients. Gregory's work focuses on ending human suffering with profound compassion, restoring dignity and hope for the forgotten of the forgotten. His grassroots network has established 15 psychiatrist hospitals, 50 clinics, and 8 rehabilitation centers across West Africa, and to date, more than 200,000 patients have been treated. We are delighted to honor his work and award him the Ahmadiyya Muslim Prize for the Advancement of Peace. We'll play a short video for his work, and then His Holiness will present the award, which includes a check of £10,000. After the video and presentation, we'll invite Gregory to say a few words. He'll speak in French, and then will be translated in English. Thank you.
Let's change the way we see the world. 1 in 4 people experience mental illness. In Africa, it is often mistaken for possession. Many of them wander the streets or are chained. This is Grégoire Aung-Bonon. After overcoming depression, he founded Association Saint-Camille, dedicated to the forgotten of this world. Since 1990, 200,000 patients have recovered. Across West Africa, he built 15 hospitals, 50 dispensaries, and 8 vocational centers without subsidies, thanks to people around the world who witnessed recovered patients running Saint-Camille themselves. Today, Saint-Camille won 10 international awards. So, together with those once forgotten, let us build a better world, and let our gaze set us free.
Je n'ai pas de mots, je ne sais pas quoi dire.
I'm without words. I don't know what to say.
Ma joie est tellement grande
My joy is so great.
avec toute cette communauté
With all this community,
en présence de sa sainteté.
in presence of His holiness,
Je n'ai pas de mots.
I have no words.
Je suis tellement heureux.
I am so
Ma joie
joyful.
est grande.
My joy is so great.
Venir jusqu'au fond, au fin fond de l'Afrique
I come from
pour
the
découvrir
From
ce
deep in
travail
Africa.
que nous faisons.
to discover this community.
C'est dire que vous cherchez vraiment à aimer.
It really means that you are seeking real love.
Oui, c'est très dur.
Thank you, Gregoire Ahong-Banon. We now come to the highlight of the evening, and it is my great honor and privilege to welcome His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, to deliver the keynote address.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. All the distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. Firstly, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of the guests who have joined us here this evening. Earlier this year, when the organizers proposed holding this peace symposium, my initial response was that we have held this event for over 2 decades. And some people quite reasonably ask what has been the benefit and whether it has led to any meaningful change in society. In recent times, many influential people, including politicians, scholars, and religious leaders, have condemned the rising tide of global warfare and injustice, and urge governments and citizens alike to prioritize peace and security. When such people, who in the eyes of the world have fame and influence, see their warnings go unheeded, who then will listen to my voice or the voice of our community? It is therefore fair to ask if there is any benefit to holding this event. Nevertheless, my response is that Islam teaches us to strive relentlessly for good and never give up. And what greater good could there be than striving to save humanity from self-destruction? If we do not put a halt to the warfare, violence, hatred, and injustice that is rapidly corroding the fabric of modern society, it shall not only cause widespread devastation in our lifetimes, but shall cast a long shadow over the lives of the generations that follow. Over 70 million people perished in the Second World War, and the vast majority were civilians, ordinary men, women, and children. It is a small mercy that the death and destruction remained largely confined to that era, but with one harrowing exception. Japan, upon whom 2 atomic bombs were dropped in 1945, whilst hundreds of thousands perished immediately, the radioactive legacy haunted their next generation as well. Various studies have shown that children of survivors faced heightened risks of neurological and physical disabilities, whilst stillbirth rates climbed among pregnant women exposed to radiation. In 1945, only the United States possessed an atom bomb. But today, several nations possess nuclear weapons, whose power and destructive capabilities dwarf the bombs dropped on Japan. Consequently, if, God forbid, even 1 or 2 countries ever deployed such weapons, the resulting carnage and catastrophic long-term effects would be far beyond our comprehension. A growing number of influential figures are now sounding the alarm against warfare and injustice, recognizing that continuing down this path of reckless aggression will lead to a catastrophe unparalleled in human history. They are rightly imploring nations to step back from the brink before it is too late. Instead of letting ordinary people build better lives for their families, why are the world's leaders propelling mankind towards the precipice of an unthinkable calamity? Indeed, as humanity, we must ask ourselves why we are waging war not only against one another, but against our children, grandchildren, and future generations. In this regard, I shall now present a selection of recent statements by public figures about modern warfare and failure to uphold justice in the world. Last year, Ireland's then President Michael Higgins warned, "We have entered an era in which the belligerent rhetoric of war dominates global discourse, whilst traditional diplomacy and the search for common ground have been cast aside." He observed, rather than a concerted effort to build a mind of war, What humanity needs now is the building of a mind of peace. Similarly, Slovakia's Prime Minister, Robert Fico, spoke candidly last year about how the drumbeat of war and saber rattling have become normalized. He said, everyone is talking about war. Everywhere, everyone is rattling their weapons. When it comes to Ukraine, everything is clear. When it comes to Iran, when it comes to Gaza, nothing is clear. He continued, the double standards are absolutely obvious. Forgive my openness, but I will say that the world has gone mad. I simply don't understand why everyone seems to like war. As Prime Minister, I don't like war. I am for peace. The double standards he speaks of inevitably breed frustration and resentment. One of Islam's fundamental teachings is that one should desire for others what they desire for themselves. It is my firm conviction that if this golden principle were truly acted upon, the world would be transformed into a heaven of peace and understanding. Following the outbreak of the Iran war, Germany Vice Chancellor Lars Killian also spoke against this war. While I commend anyone who speaks out against injustice, those who wield authority and influence must also demonstrate the practical steps they are taking to make good on their words. Unfortunately, when it comes to actual policies or taking decisive action, then they do little or nothing. More words, no matter how impressive or wise, cannot bring about peace on their own. During a visit to Turkey, Pope Leo declared that the Third World War is being fought piecemeal and that the future of humanity is at stake. The Pope and others are now acknowledging what I have long warned about, that a world war has already begun and that piece by piece the world is sleepwalking ever deeper into its grip. Regarding the risks of escalation, Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, recently said, you cannot answer an illegality with another illegality, because that is how the great catastrophes of humanity begin. Very often, great wars break out due to a chain of responses that get out of hand because of miscalculations, technical failures, and unforeseen events. This is a wise and important observation that injustice by one party does not give a license to others to do the same. Today, certain major powers are acting with impunity, brazenly, disregarding international norms and pursuing narrow self-interest above all else. Yet, they ought to remember that unjust or illegal actions are never conducted in a vacuum. They should not be blind to the reality that they too will suffer if the world descends into chaos and the foundation of peace are shattered. Undoubtedly, injustice is a malignant virus that spreads rapidly. Thus, if today the major powers violate international laws with no consequence, then tomorrow lesser powers will be emboldened to act with equal disregard for law and human life. The Spanish Prime Minister also observed that wars are often used as a diversion to mask the failures of governments and their leaders. He said, governments are here to improve people's lives, to provide solutions to problems, not to make people's lives worse. And it is absolutely unacceptable that those leaders who are incapable of fulfilling this duty use the smokescreen of war to hide their failure and in the process line the pockets of a select few. In other words, the pursuit of power and material gain is causing nations and their leaders to betray the very people they were chosen to serve. He laments that instead of saving lives by building hospitals, billions are being spent on ending lives by building weapons of mass destruction. Professor John Mearsheimer, a renowned American political scientist, recently said, I think in the West, and this is especially true in the United States, we like to talk about military power. Of course, the Israelis do as well. And the idea is that any political problem we see can be solved by military means. Just bring out the big stick and engage in big stick diplomacy, and we shall solve the problem. He further warned that the Iran war represents a fundamentally different situation and cautioned that a failure to secure a swift resolution could trigger a global economic depression. And so, the truth is that no part of the world is immune from the toxic effects of warfare and injustice. History shows us that when nations fear their power is threatened, they resort to force and injustice to salvage their supremacy. And when their victims eventually rise, they too are consumed by a raging desire for revenge. In this way, a vicious cycle of war, violence, and iniquity churns relentlessly as the transgressions of the powerful incite the oppressed to adopt the very injustices they once suffered. Precisely for this reason, Islam teaches that we should restrain the hand of the oppressor and the oppressed. While we are duty-bound to aid the oppressed, we must equally ensure they do not pursue vengeance and remain strictly within the bounds of proportionality. The American economist Jeffrey Sachs recently offered a stark assessment of the world's failure to heed the lessons of history. He argued that the institutions and frameworks of international law constructed after the Second World War have been completely dismantled, leaving the United Nations as ineffective today as the League of Nations was in the late 1930s. He said, "We have never seen this kind of lawlessness in the nuclear age. The United Nations is essentially useless right now." The failure of the United Nations is something I've addressed many times. It continues to operate under a system in which the 5 permanent members of the Security Council hold an absolute veto, a privilege and power far beyond that of other nations. This fundamental inequality lies at the heart of its failure. If, however, true justice and fairness existed in international relations, neither the United States, nor Israel, nor Iran, nor any other nation would have any cause to resort to war. In a widely reported speech earlier this year, Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, stated, "The rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can, and the weak must suffer what they must." He too acknowledges that different rules apply to the rich and powerful. Nonetheless, powerful nations that exploit this principle should recognize that the use of force and coercion is a short-sighted and counterproductive strategy. Invariably, it breeds frustration, disorder, and instability. Similarly, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz recently warned that our freedom is no longer simply guaranteed, it is under threat. The international order based on rights and rules no longer exists in the way it once did. Despite these words, Germany, like many other developed nations, continues to utilize its power to maintain dominance at the expense of weaker nations. They prioritize strategic alliances over principle and turn a blind eye to the cruelties of their allies, rather than standing for truth and justice in all circumstances. In recent times, one justification often given for Western interventions in foreign countries has been the liberation of the women and girls of those nations. Tragically, though the thousands of women and girls killed by foreign bombs expose the hollowness of such claims. Following the outbreak of the Iran war, a Spanish MEP, Irene Montero, asserted that the rights of women and girls are cynically exploited as a pretext to advance geopolitical agenda. She said, "No woman has ever been freed by American bombs or illegal aggression. Not in Syria, not in Iraq, not in Lebanon, not in Afghanistan, and it will not happen in Iran either. We are fed up with our rights, our bodies, and the violence women suffer being used as excuses to justify illegal bombing and imperialist aggression." Her words expose a sobering truth. that powerful nations seek to justify their injustices and wars on false pretexts of defending human rights. Increasingly, people are waking up to the dangers of the moment. Yet, it is a cause of grief for all sincere Muslims to know that many people seek to blame Islam and claim it to be the cause of the world's disorder. Such allegations, amplified by mainstream and social media, are utterly false and extremely harmful. Rather than scapegoating Islam or any other religion, what the world urgently needs is for people to unite with a common purpose, the establishment of peace and harmony. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community has always been at the forefront of this effort and shall continue to be so. We convene this event in the hope that it may foster mutual understanding and, at the very least, inspire some people to serve the cause of peace. It was with this same objective in mind that several years ago I wrote to various world leaders, urging them to set aside their differences and work together for the sake of humanity. For example, I wrote to the Israeli Prime Minister invoking the teaching of the Torah, and to the Iranian President and other Muslim leaders drawing upon the Holy Quran, urging them all towards justice and reconciliation. I extended the same message, urging peace to the British Prime Minister, the US President, China's President, and many other heads of states. My sole objective was that they might reflect upon the deteriorating state of the world and recognize the existential risks facing humanity. Sadly, they were not willing to listen. And the ever-increasing volatility and disorder in the world is testament to that failure. Wars are being fought, nations are being divided, hate is spreading, minorities are being targeted. In this era, tolerance, grace, and compassion are all too often seen as weaknesses or flaws rather than the virtues they are. All the while, it is being alleged that Islam is an extremist religion and the root cause of the world's afflictions. This is a grave injustice. Not one of the statements I presented earlier made any reference to Islam. Rather, they pointed to the geopolitical failures of governments and the collapse of institutions designed to safeguard peace and security. Global disorder is driven by the desire of the rich and powerful to fulfill their vested interests and maintain their dominance over others. Far from being a source of conflict, Islam's teachings offer a timeless path towards peace. To illustrate this, I shall draw upon a few verses of the Holy Quran. Chapter 4, verse 136 states, O ye who believe, be strict in observing justice and be witnesses for Allah, even though it be against yourselves or against parents and kindred. Here, Allah calls on Muslims to uphold absolute justice and equity. It requires a person to stand ready to testify against himself, his parents, his loved ones, or his community for the sake of truth and justice. The verse continues, whether he be rich or poor, Allah is more regardful of them both than you are. Therefore, follow not low desires so that you may be able to act equitably. In other words, a person's social rank or material wealth counts for nothing in the eyes of God. What matters is the sincerity of one's commitment to truth and justice. Thus, Muslims are commanded to resist the low desires that obstruct the path to true equity. Similarly, in chapter 5, verse 9, it states, be steadfast in the cause of Allah, bearing witness in equity, and let not a people's enmity incite you to act otherwise than with justice. Be always just, that is nearer to righteousness. Here too, Allah commands Muslims to uphold fairness and integrity in all circumstances, even towards those who stand against them. It is easy to fulfill the rights of others, of those on your side. The far greater test is to fulfill the rights of those who oppose you. In a passage of profound relevance in today's war-torn world, chapter 49, verse 10 of the Quran states that if two nations or parties engage in conflict, it is the duty of others to strive to reconcile them. Should a peace deal be established, but then violated by one party, others must unite against the aggressor and apply proportionate force to bring an end to their cruelties. Yet, once the aggressor returns to peace, they must not be subjected to revenge. Rather, their honor and dignity must be respected. This is the means of ensuring sustainable peace. In every situation, whether dealing with the mighty or weak, the righteous or the transgressor, Islam teaches us to act with fairness. Moreover, achieving peace also requires a spirit of sacrifice. It cannot be that one nation expects concessions from others whilst refusing to make any of its own. Although I speak from an Islamic perspective, I firmly believe that justice is a universal principle that serves as the guarantor of peace at every level of society and amongst the people of all faiths and beliefs. Religious differences should never cause a person to reject wisdom from the followers of another faith or tradition. Islam teaches that every wise word is the lost property of a believer, to be adopted wherever it is found, whether it comes from a Christian, a Jew, an atheist, or anyone else. Such an open-minded spirit not only enhances a person's moral character, but also deepens their commitment to justice, tolerance, and peace. Despite the troubling global realities I have outlined, I firmly believe that whilst certain individuals and nations covet the power, wealth, and resources of others, the common heart of humanity simply wishes to live in peace. Every person, therefore, has a role to play. And the urgency of that role weighs heavier by the day. As the Pope said, a third world war has begun piecemeal, and we must strive to halt its spread before it engulfs the entire world. Otherwise, I fear its scale and subsequent loss of life shall far eclipse the horror of the previous two world wars, reaching a level unprecedented in the history of mankind. Such a catastrophe will not be ours alone. Its long and haunting shadow will darken the horizon of future generations. So we must not only think of ourselves. Instead, we all have a duty to consider the world we are leaving behind for our children and those who follow us. Let us act now so that those who come after us may inherit a world of peace and prosperity rather than bear the burden of our failures. Let us act now so we may spare ourselves the reproachful glances of our children. Asking why we bequeathed to them a world set on fire. Only then will this Peace Symposium have fulfilled the promise of its name and not merely be a gathering of good intentions, but a turning point in the pursuit of peace. Indeed, it is my profound hope and prayer that this event serves as a true catalyst for peace and justice, bringing forth a lasting change in the world. May Allah, the Almighty, enable mankind to understand the gravity of this moment, and may all people, irrespective of their faiths and beliefs, join together in the common purpose of establishing peace in the world. May the dark clouds of warfare that hover menacingly all around us dissipate and give way to bright blue skies of peace, love, and compassion. With these words, once again, I express my deepest gratitude to you all for joining us this evening. Thank you very much.
That brings us to the end of the formal program. As is our tradition, His Holiness will now lead us in silent prayer. We pray by raising our hands, and you may join us in any manner you feel comfortable.
A silent prayer. Ameen.
Well, actually, it is very, very important what we have noticed from the speech of the Hazrat, and it was very interesting. And it was called for absolute justice and peace around the world. So we welcome that speech a lot.
It was really interesting and really timely. The fact that we're here to discuss peace and the challenges that we face as a world, as a nation, and it was really powerful to hear His Holiness speak about that.
I think the message overall of the trying to listen even to difficult messages, of being open and honest about what might be causing conflict or might need to be done to end conflict. I think that message and being courageous about giving messages to leaders is important.
Well, it was a wonderful occasion. He spoke very, very well on a very, very important topic. You know, we're here to celebrate the Symposium of Peace here. And goodness me, isn't it time? We really need to actually focus and celebrate on that. There's so much going on in the world. The idea about interfaith harmony, celebrating peace locally, nationally, and worldwide is so important. We can't lose sight of that.
I thought His Holiness preached a very wise and truthful message about the needs of our time for peace. I share his concern at the moment. We're living through very troubled times where the international order is really broken down. We've seen major powers in the world behaving without integrity. And I think now is more important than ever is that we stand up for the principles of peace and justice. So I really support what His Holiness was saying.
It's beautiful. I mean, if all our spiritual leaders will be speaking this way, I don't think there will be any wars. There will be any religious conflicts, or we will live in one big harmony, and I believe the speech was inspiring, very, very inspiring.
His Holiness' speech has touched him because here's a man who is trying everything to obtain peace, and he's trying his best to get all the leaders to cooperate together to achieve peace. And his wish is that more people may listen to people like His Holiness, so that there may be, peace.
As His Holiness alluded to, when people, not everybody, but a lot of people, when they think of Islam, you think of the negative side of Islam that we've seen. But he talked about the peaceful side of Islam. And he also talked about just us all coming together as people. And it doesn't matter, whichever of the three great Abrahamic religions you come from, in the end, it boils down to the same thing. It's about love, it's about tolerance, it's about acceptance of the other. And I think he beautifully articulated that. And in particular, he's giving a different slant and a different look on Islam. And I think that can only be positive for the world. And that doesn't matter whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're a Muslim or Hindu or Sikh, or indeed none of those, atheist, agnostic. This is about the human connection. And I think he articulated that very well. If you listen to that message really carefully, that's what he was saying. We are one species. We all need to live together to have a better world.